Coming up on episode 61 of Omnivore, the future of AI in food, and a conversation with science pioneer Levente Diosady. This is Omnivore, from the editors of Food Technology magazine and the Institute of Food Technologists.
This episode of Omnivore is brought to you by IFT FIRST, where the future of food takes shape. Join thousands of changemakers and innovators at Chicago's McCormick Place, July 13th through 16th, for the food industry's can't-miss event of the year. Connect with global leaders, experience breakthrough technologies, and be part of the conversations defining tomorrow's food landscape. Secure your spot at iftevent.org.
Welcome to Omnivore from IFT and Food Technology, where we explore the intersection of business, science, and technology in the global food system. I'm Bill McDowell. Artificial intelligence is evolving at breakneck speed, and it's already transforming the food industry in powerful ways. From streamlining R&D and automating quality control, to predicting supply chain disruptions and cutting food waste, AI is fast becoming an essential tool across the food system. But while AI offers promising solutions, the pace of change can feel overwhelming. Food Technology staff editor Mary Abood spoke with AI expert and IFT FIRST keynoter Steve Brown about the rapidly evolving AI landscape and how adopting the right mindset can help professionals ride the AI wave instead of fighting it.
The AI era is undeniably here, and it's evolving fast. As someone who lives on the front lines of emerging tech, can you give us a snapshot of where AI stands today and where it's heading next?
Yeah, so AI is a very fast-moving field, as I'm sure everybody has realized by now. And while it's been around and in use in business for the last 10 to 15 years, that's sort of the classic AI that's been used to do demand prediction and maybe do some machine vision, perhaps do some recommendation engines. I mean, you use it every day when you read your email. AI is behind your spam filter and it sorts out the good from the bad emails. So it's been around for a while and it's been used in lots of sort of operational enhancements of businesses. But where it's going next is when the new form of AI, known as generative AI, kind of grows up and becomes applied in a business context. And there are several waves of innovation that come after that. And the ones I'm watching are agents, agentic AI, spatial AI, and physical AI. The spatial AI, agentic AI is essentially smart software that behaves like a digital employee. So you can give it quite complex tasks and it will go away and break down those tasks and execute them using tools. So it's essentially creating a digital coworker to offload the tasks you don't want to do. Then there's spatial AI, which is AI that understands the physical world and can help us because it has a better understanding of physical space. And then physical AI, where you take an agent with spatial awareness and drop it inside a robot. And that's going to give us a whole new generation of robotics, humanoid robotics, that again can work alongside us safely. So that's where it's heading next, and it's very exciting. It's going to take off in the next 2 to 3 years.
With AI moving at lightning speed, what are some of the quote-unquote low-hanging fruit opportunities food companies can take advantage of right now, especially around supply chain efficiency, sustainability, or product development?
I mean, the obvious ones are sort of demand in the supply chain would be demand prediction. Where are you likely to have demand where based on previous historical patterns? People buy different foods at different times of year, different events, different weather patterns might determine, again, what sort of inventory levels that you need. And companies like Walmart are already very good at doing that sort of thing, but there's always opportunities to improve there. I think some interesting areas that are emerging are things like product consistency. So in the wine industry, for example, there are different years where the sun shines more or less, or the rain comes more or less. And so the grapes are different. And when you're trying to create a consistent branded product, you've got to figure out how to blend that. And AIs are helping with that. So there's a company called Tastery. Full disclosure, I've invested in them because I think they're amazing. And they're sort of looking at the collision of chemistry and AI, using a chemical lab to understand ingredients and how they go together, and then using that to create a consistent blend for some of their customers. They're also using that same technology to develop new products by understanding the palates, the taste buds of different parts of the country, and they are different. They're able to help companies to develop new products that are targeted and will be successful in those marketplaces. So I think it's going to really accelerate product development as well.
Turning to barriers, what do you see as the biggest barriers companies face when trying to integrate AI into their operations, not just technically, but culturally and organizationally?
That's a great question. Every client that I work with is trying to answer that question and trying to figure out what do we need to do to get going or to accelerate what we're doing. The first one I would say is making sure you have a culture of curiosity in the company. We've all seen The Terminator. We've all read these dystopian sci-fi novels. And we need to recognize the fact that they are dystopian because a utopian sci-fi film is not very compelling. So, in some ways, Hollywood has done a number on us and predisposed us to be afraid of this stuff. But it's important to build a curiosity culture, one of experimentation, excitement, and thinking about the possibilities that it presents. And I think for leadership, it is shifting the thinking from a mindset of technology is there for efficiency and productivity to instead thinking about the opportunity and the possibility that AI presents. Sure, you can use AI to do automation, but AI is a different beast. And the opportunity here is not just to offload work from humans, but to partner them with AI in a way that elevates their performance. And I notice I say performance and not productivity. Performance is, sure, it's productivity and efficiency, but it's also their creativity, their intuition, the quality of their decision-making, or to expand their capabilities, expand their knowledge, their wisdom, extend their abilities so they can do things they could never do before.
Interesting.
That's the true opportunity of AI, is to go beyond. And I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest barrier that companies face is this cognitive barrier of using the technology to do the things they've always done in the past.
A lot of people worry about AI replacing jobs and making their work obsolete. What would you say to those who feel anxious about what this technology means for their future?
One, acknowledge your fear, and it's natural. We all worry about being replaced. We certainly have had our perceptions warped by watching too much TV. But what I would tell, because this is a very common question that comes up with audiences when I do keynotes, it's probably the number one question. Some version of, how do I remain robot proof? What do I tell my children, my grandchildren, they need to do to remain robot proof? It's a simple answer. Double down on your humanity. Focus on growing the skills that are uniquely human. Your emotional intelligence, critical thinking abilities, persuasion skills, interpersonal communication. Those are the things that will differentiate you and keep you relevant in the workplace. And the other thing I tell people is use AI to elevate your performance. Don't resist AI. The old adage in the industry is you won't be replaced by an AI. You'll be replaced by a person who knows how to use AI. So make sure you're that person. Invest in learning AI skills and practice using these tools so you become really adept at them.
What advice do you have for food scientists and technologists who want to stay ahead of the curve in this AI-augmented future? Are there specific skills or mindsets that matter most?
I suppose from a mindset perspective, it's important to stop resisting this stuff and start embracing AI. What that means is, increase your AI literacy. Make sure you understand there are different flavors of AI. They can solve different problems. Where is AI going next? What are the types of tools that are out there? And get used to try some of these tools so that you know how to use them and get the best results out of them. And that typically means you have to make time in your day or your week to do that. We all have busy lives. What I've advised people do is set aside half an hour if you can spare it on your calendar every week, just to invest in yourself, invest in your AI literacy, your AI skills, so that you can learn about this stuff and how to get the best results out of it.
Finally, I just wanted to ask you, can we get a little sneak peek about what we can expect from your keynote at IFT First?
I thought you might ask that. So I'll expand on a lot of the thoughts I shared in this interview. So I'll walk people through in a bit more detail what these new waves of AI innovation are. So what is agentic AI? What are the different flavors of it? How might you use it in your business? What are the different types of agents we might have in our lives? What does spatial AI mean? How would that operate in the workplace? How might we use it as an assistant to help us through our days? What are the implications for us? And then physical AI. What are these? I actually bring videos of these robots in action so people can see them. And it looks like science fiction, but these are real robots doing real robot things, and it's mind-blowing. So that's a little sneak peek of what I'll be bringing, and I can't wait to do it.
I want to thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's really nice talking with you.
Steve Brown is a former executive at Google DeepMind and Intel, and the best-selling author of The Innovation Ultimatum: How 6 Strategic Technologies Will Reshape Every Business in the 2020s. Known for making complex technology accessible and inspiring, Brown will be a keynote speaker in Chicago at this summer's IFT First annual event and expo. Visit iftevent.org to learn more about the program and how to register. We'll be back with more Omnivore in a moment, but first, this word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by IFT First, the food industry's can't-miss event coming to Chicago's McCormick Place July 13 through 16. Want to first look at the future of food R&D? This year, IFT First is exclusively unveiling a groundbreaking AI solution that taps into 85 years of scientific data. It's not just another tech tool, it's a virtual co-developer designed with food scientists for food scientists. Experience breakthrough technologies, connect with global leaders, and be part of the conversations that matter. Don't miss this game-changing moment in food science. Register now at iftevent.org. That's iftevent.org.
Welcome back to Omnivore. I'm Bill McDowell. Nicknamed the Iron Man by the media, University of Toronto Professor Emeritus Levente Diosady is best known for creating double-fortified salt, or DFS, a simple but powerful innovation designed to fight iron and iodine deficiencies, especially among vulnerable populations in developing regions. Diosady's breakthrough was a microencapsulation technique that turned everyday sodium iodine into a viable delivery vehicle for life-saving micronutrients that have benefited more than 100 million people worldwide. Diosady has since developed quadruple fortified salt, or QFS, by adding folic acid and vitamin B12 to further address nutrient deficiencies. With support from organizations like the Gates Foundation and Nutrition International, QFS is now being trialed in regions across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, offering a scalable, low-cost solution to a persistent public health crisis. Food Technology's Julie Larson-Brisher chatted with Diosady, the recipient of the 2025 IFT Lifetime Achievement Award in honor of Nicolas Appert, about his remarkable 5-decade career in food science and engineering and his groundbreaking achievements in global nutrition.
Hi, Dr. Diosady, and congratulations on being awarded IFT's 2025 Lifetime Achievement Award in honor of Nicolas Appert. One of the interesting things I noticed in your bio is that you didn't start out in food science. So how did you get into this career path?
So I got into food science by accident. I was a chemical engineer. I always wanted to be a chemical engineer. My father was one. My son is one. And so I did my PhD in catalysis, and my first job was with a consulting engineering company, Cambrian Engineering Group, and they were based in Saskatoon. And the company was bought by Agra Foods, which owned an edible oil refinery in northern Saskatchewan. And all of a sudden, I needed to become an expert in edible oil processing, which I did become eventually, and I still am a reasonable expert in that area. So strictly by accident, I got pulled into that. Later on, Dr. Manar, who was the head of the micronutrient initiative, asked me a simple question about food fortification, and then I became interested, and I got very much involved in food fortification, which is what I've been doing also for the last 25 years or so.
So you are a person who welcomes the challenge.
Fortunately, I have always been interested in all areas of science. So I've never been a really good specialist in anything, but I've dabbled in many, many different things, from geophysics to anything. And so I welcomed the opportunity, and I enjoyed it. The other thing was also that I became a professor essentially by accident. Because I was invited to be the external examiner of a student who was in food science, although he was a chemical engineer. So this was the overlap, chemical engineering and knowing of food. So I was invited to be an external examiner. And afterwards they said, by the way, would you like to become a professor in this field? We just want to start a new chair in food engineering. And I said, oh, okay, that sounds good. So that's how I became a professor, and I've been there 45 years.
So what do you like most about being more on the food side of chemical engineering?
Theoretically, engineers solve problems which are positive. And getting into the food area, there is a more direct impact of what you do in people's lives and people's health. And I certainly enjoy the fact that the work I've been doing has had an impact on health.
You've told me that as a professor emeritus, you're off the payroll but still working. What drives you to continue your work?
Probably my wife would kill me if I was hanging around and get right underfoot for her. So in that sense, that is very nice. I have something that I have to do and I enjoy doing. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that this whole area has a number of different possibilities and different number of needs. So right now, I'm working with the Nutrition International for introducing folic acid in Ethiopia. And the immediate results are very good. So there's a chance that this is going to go into production in a larger scale. And of course, as an engineer, I'd like to see that. I like to see the stuff move out of the laboratory into a proper large-scale processing. And this has, with simple double-fortified salt, this has happened in India. We have 100 million people on the technology. And it's all pro bono, by the way. So university or I don't really look for anything in terms of financial return. And Ethiopia is, the pilot study has just been completed, and the results are good, and the chances are pretty good that we'll be asked to help with setting up something that will introduce folic acid fortified salt in Ethiopia on a larger scale.
So after more than 50 years of chemical engineering work in food, you've certainly had your share of notable achievements. What would you say are your top scientific successes during your career?
The fact that my son is a very good chemical engineer, which may not be exactly the answer you're looking for. But I've been very fortunate in being drawn into this problem of fortifying salt with iron. And this has become as I said, it's a large-scale operation now. 4 different Indian states are promoting this and providing it to their food programs. And so it reaches about 100 million people as of 2023, what I'm talking about. I'm still in the century. Yeah. So that is by far the most obvious positive that we have. But actually, in science, there are lots of fun things that you do, and little things that gives you pleasure, and it's always nice to deal with young people that are keen and interested. And I have been very fortunate on that end as well. I've had some 100 graduate students, but 17 of my people have been professors, including I have one dean and one president of a university who just retired. My second PhD. So you, as a teacher, you always take pleasure in the success of your students. And the other thing is that you really don't know which student you have a big influence on. And it turns out 20 years later, I have a wonderful Thai student that invited us to visit because he liked what he learned from me. And I wasn't sure that he really needed to do that, but it was great.
Can you tell us a little more about double-fortified salt and how you've solved the technical problem of the iodine-iron interaction?
Well, the reason it needed to be solved is because India has a huge problem in anemia. And a very large percentage of young women, and actually women in general, have very low iron status. And that leads to all kinds of problems, including a huge number of maternal deaths and problems like that. And the problem was that everybody realizes this problem. So fortification of things like flour have come up. But the thing is that India is a place where there's still about 400 million or 500 million people who are rural, who grow their own food and don't buy anything. So having fortified flour didn't do a thing for them. Fact is, salt is something that everybody has to get. It all goes through some sort of processing or packaging or something. It is being iodized by law, and 94% or 92% of people in India get iodized salt. So it seemed like a natural place to put iron. The problem is that iron and iodine interact and results in the loss of iodine. So we had to find a way of making them compatible. And the way we found it, which is pretty logical, is that we microencapsulate the iron. Originally, we microencapsulated the iodine, but since there was already an iodine system in place, it was easier to accept technology that will deal with the iron being encapsulated. And once we did that, we realized that when we have these capsules that seem to work, we can add other things into it. We started adding folic acid, and then because the folic acid also needs vitamin B12, we added vitamin B12. So we have quadruple. We even have a quintuple, which has zinc added to it. And we have another project with another colleague in Cambodia where the problem is with vitamin B1 shortage. So berry in infants. And there again, we could put vitamin B1 onto salt that could be incorporated into diet. And the tests are going on now, apparently went quite well.
So what excites you the most about the science of future food systems?
Well, first of all, I'm noticing that there has been over the years an interest in making nutrition part of the food processing. You look back 20, 30, whatever years, even 10 years, the average consumer didn't give a damn about nutrition. They wanted good flavor and they wanted a good price. And nutrition sort of came in if it came in, but it didn't matter. But it's become more and more and more of a driver, and the industry is responding to that. So that's one interesting and exciting point. The other thing is that the food industry has become more and more open to other technologies from different fields that can do processing of food with minimum damage to nutrients. So there are different low temperature, high pressure, all sorts of technologies that are now being used more or less and are going to be used more and more in the future.
We're celebrating your lifetime achievements at the IFT FIRST annual event and expo this July in Chicago. When you look back over your lifetime of accomplishments, what makes you happiest?
again, this sort of derails a little bit from science, but what makes me happy is I have a very loving, happy family that are professional. I have two engineers, with an aerospace engineer and a chemical engineer, who have careers that are in science and that are happy in that. And I guess I'm also happy with the acceptance of my peers, colleagues. And so I've had a very fulfilling life I have a second aspect to what I do. I'm very much involved in Hungarian community in Canada, and in very much involved in encouraging education related to Hungarian studies. And so I've had a positive influence in that area, and I've been recognized for it. I have the Officer's Cross of the Order of Merit of Hungary, which is a lot to say, but that was partially because of stuff I've done for the Hungarian community, and of course because of the science. So it's nice to have that double appreciation.
How did your family decide to make the move from Hungary to Canada?
You're too young to know, but in 1956 there was a revolt in Hungary against Soviet rule. And it was run primarily by university students. They were the initiators, and they were also the ones that suffered the most losses. There were many thousands of students that died during these essentially 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Approximately 200,000 people fled Hungary during right after the revolution, and including my parents. And interestingly enough, they represented a very significant proportion of the university graduates in Hungary, like something like a couple percent. So it was a serious brain drain for Hungary. So we escaped to Austria, and my father was a chemical engineer and was well known in his field, which was leather chemistry. And so he applied to the US and Canada and refused a very good offer from Germany because he thought it was too close to the Russians and didn't want to stay in Europe. So we had a choice of coming to Canada or the US. And we came to Canada because Canada didn't have a conscription, and then I was a young boy. And my father was super smart, because otherwise I would have gone to Vietnam.
Dr. Diosady, I'd like to end our chat today by asking, what does being awarded the IFT Lifetime Achievement Award in honor of Nicolas Appert mean to you?
Well, first of all, it is a wonderful recognition of your peers. Also, being recognized in food science, for somebody that has never had a formal course in food, but has been an engineer all this time, I think it's a wonderful recognition to me, and it's a wonderful thing for IFT to do. So primarily those are the key reasons. The other thing is, every once in a while I stick this in, that it's pretty nice that a refugee kid can so many years later end up at the top of the heap of something or other. And this is certainly a heap that is very, very important, very nice. And so it is a recognition that I treasure.
Levente Diosady is Professor Emeritus of Food Engineering at the University of Toronto and the recipient of the 2025 IFT Lifetime Achievement Award in honor of Nicolas Appert, which will be presented July 13th at the IFT FIRST annual event and expo in Chicago. You can find out more about his work, as well as a preview of everything coming up at IFT FIRST in the June issue of Food Technology.
Our thanks to IFT FIRST, food improved by research, science, and technology, for feeding this episode to your ears. Don't miss your chance to be part of the year's biggest food science and innovation gathering in Chicago this July. Connect with the minds cooking up tomorrow's innovations, get a taste of breakthrough technologies, and join conversations that matter for our food future. Register today at iftevent.org.
And that wraps up another episode of Omnivore. Thanks again to all our guests and my colleagues at Food Technology. If you enjoyed today's discussion and want to be part of the conversation shaping the future of food, join us in Chicago this July at IFT FIRST, where the leading minds in the global food system connect, innovate, and drive meaningful change. Learn more about this year's agenda at iftevent.org. Omnivore is produced and distributed by the Institute of Food Technologists. For more discussions about discovery across the food sciences, check out IFT's other podcast, Side Dish, on the News and Publications page of IFT.org. For all my colleagues at IFT, thanks for listening and join us again for our next episode. This is Omnivore.